Hello and welcome to episode 373 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always joined by Evan Silva. Also today joined, longtime friend of the show, king of the awards, king of the waiver wire. You know him, you love him, Ryan Reynolds. Ryan, how are you, buddy?
Good, man. Pleasure to be back, gentlemen.
Indeed, pleasure to have you, Evan.
Ryan Reynolds looks like he's broadcasting live from Sing Sing. Are you in the same cell block as Billy Walters?
No, they got me in isolation here, man.
If you guys aren't aware, you can view these shows on YouTube if you can stand to see our disgusting faces. And yes, Ryan's background does look like a prison, but he's in good shape no matter what. Evan, good afternoon. How's it going?
It's going great. I think early April we did a win total show. We're going to do another one June, sometime before the season. But today we're going to be talking about awards. Yeah, it's going to be a fun show. Ryan has this down to, I mean, he's had some killer takes on awards over the last couple years.
Yeah, market is soft, man. Awards market is soft, and you can build a portfolio. So what I like to do is start betting some long shots, start getting some really good numbers early in the year, and then as the year goes on, Ryan continues to follow the market and write about it. There's just really soft. Anyways, as Evan mentioned on today's show, we're going to be talking awards. We're talking MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, et cetera, et cetera. Before we get into all that, I got to start here. This summer, you're going to hear a ton about fantasy rankings, about hot takes, and honestly, like, so much of it is just straight up bullshit. Like, anyone with an internet connection can come up with rankings for fantasy football, and that's what's happened. You know, that's cool. I can't stress enough how seriously we take the process. Evan and I put together this entire team of analysts and data virgins to follow and analyze the news so we can keep our rankings and projections in a good place as we approach the season. Like, we're constantly debating all the rankings projections we have for the players, how they pair, how they fit against each other. And like, that's the basis for all of our own drafts, best ball, season-long props, etc. You know, that's what we're using for all of this. We have two versions of the draft kit on sale now. There's a $29 version, which covers season-long drafts only, which is basically like what you need for like your home league against your buddies. Then there's a $49 pro version, everything in the draft kit, plus season-long props, Dynasty, best ball, and then in season, rest of season $150. For the love of God, help me feed my kids. $49 for the pro version. Finally, this podcast is indeed sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. They have $10 million best ball tournament this season, $25 buy-in. Anyone who gets our draft kit pro, I repeat, if you get the pro version of the draft kit, whether you have an Underdog account yet or not, you'll get a free $10 in your account. More details on that coming in June. If you do need an Underdog account, matching deposit bonus up to $100. Take their money, use our rankings. It actually is a ton of fun to do underdog drafts. All right, awards. Ryan, let's get into it here at the MVP market. We know, historically speaking, you almost have to be a quarterback to win MVP. I understand Adrian Peterson won it once, but man, I can't fathom betting on anything except a quarterback to win the MVP. Ryan, can you make a case for any non-quarterback, or you just scratch off all the non-quarterbacks on the list for MVP?
For me, especially before the season, I just ignore them entirely. In season, if someone's going crazy, like last year, Cooper Kupp at least put himself in a position where he wasn't drawing dead at it. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, you know, if he didn't win, if Randy Moss didn't win in 2007, I'm pretty much going to ignore that, at least before the season.
Favorite in this market is Josh Allen at 7-1 on DraftKings. And by the way, I'm going to refer to DraftKings prices here. Ryan has done some line shopping. Also, though, there's some wide ranges. And by the way, if you go to EstablishTheRun.com/offers, you'll see ways to get on all these books that have these I'll talk about some prices that I got before, and Ryan will talk about some too. There's just huge discrepancies, and that's one of the reasons it's so soft. But anyways, on DraftKings, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady are the top 5 choices to be your MVP. I think there's not a lot of value on those at this point. I think we want to be taking shots on some longer shots. Ryan, what are your general thoughts right now on the MVP market?
I agree with you there. Right now is the time to take long shots. And then once we get closer to the season, maybe back something up with some of the favorites that have easy schedule runs to start the season with. For instance, Aaron Rodgers is a pretty attractive opening schedule. But two long shots I'm interested in. We've talked about this before. Jalen Hurts is still at a good price. You get him at 45-1 at Fox Bet, 40-1 on Caesars. They open in Detroit. They host the Vikings on Monday Night Football. Then they go to Washington. Then they host Jacksonville. 3-1 sounds very reasonable. Mm-hmm. They have the second easiest schedule out of anyone in the whole league in general. The issue with Hurts is long time ago, I bought my first car with the proceeds of Aaron Rodgers rookie cards. I was buying them when he was sitting behind Favre. So I've been looking at quarterbacks for financial purposes for a long time. Hurts is a very unique case for me because when he was at Alabama, I thought he was essentially a cross-off, like a 6-round project quarterback. Then we went to Oklahoma. All of a sudden, this guy actually looked like he could pass at an NFL rate. With Doug Peterson 2 years ago, he was pretty effective in both phases. And then last year, the Eagles ended up shifting towards a more run-heavy offense, largely because he was struggling. I think we all think that the Eagles want to be a more pass-heavy offense, so Hurts is going to have the opportunity to do that. And if he can keep Nick Sirianni on track there, meaning if he can run the system he wants by playing good enough, I think he's an interesting MVP candidate.
Evan, I think you were on this one already, but 45-1 still out there. And this is what I mean by line shopping. 45-1 on Fox, 40-1 on Caesars, 18-1 on DraftKings. I would not be taking Jalen Hurts at 18-1. I will be taking him at 45-1. And by the way, Evan, today they added James Bradbury. They added A.J. Brown. I mean, this Eagles team could be very good. To win the MVP, you have to win 11, 12, 13 games, I think. And the Eagles, I think, at least have a chance to. Where are you at on Jalen Hurts right now?
Yeah, very winnable division too. A lot of good division games that they can capitalize on. Their roster looks loaded right now, both offensively and defensively. I mean, I think that they have a strong supporting starting lineup on defense, except for one spot, like on the back end at safety, maybe slot corner. But I think that they'll be rolling Avonte Maddox at slot corner, and they'll probably feel pretty good about that. They're going to be able to get after the pass. So you remember, there are check marks boxes that we want to check for our MVP votes. They have to play quarterback. They have to be, a dynamic player with a lot of upside. They have to play on a team that has a chance to be really good, to be a factor late in the season. And I mean, I think he checks all those boxes. I took this at 40-1 earlier on DraftKings. That was before they acquired A.J. Brown. I mean, they've got an awesome offensive line. They got Dallas Goedert coming back, Devontae Smith in his second season. It's kind of a fun team to bet on. And I mean, betting on Jalen Hurts to win MVP also correlates well with the over on their 8.5 wins, which I think is down to minus 150. So not the greatest juice, but I don't know. I could see it moving up to 9.
So all the Eagles stuff has come down. Like there was Eagles to win the NFC East at plus 350. Now it's plus 190. And so like everything's coming down, but the Hurts line didn't come down specifically on Caesars and Fox. So just wanted to put that out there. The Matt Ryan one that Ryan mentioned is interesting. Obviously, Matt Ryan changing teams. He's 40-1 on DraftKings. You can get 60-1, I believe, on FanDuel and Caesars. I mean, Ryan, the AFC is absolutely loaded. I think Matt Ryan is very close to the cliff. So I would probably need 60-1 here to bet this. But what do you think about the Matt Ryan stuff?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The AFC, as to Evan's point, I'd prefer to bet on long shots in the NFC because I think there's an easier path to winning the conference, to being the top seed, being a top 2 seed. That's why Trey Lance is interesting there too, if he can hold on to his job. Mm-hmm. But for Ryan, 61's a good price because the Colts are in the driver's seat to win the division, I feel. They're in a good spot. We've seen Carson Palmer in the past and Kurt Warner go to Arizona and put together a good second resurgence. So I think that's at least in the range of outcomes for Ryan. But like you said, to your point, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, that's a lot of teams and quarterbacks that he has to, one, compete with in a wins-loss record standpoint, and two, be as productive as. So I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's too cheap at 60-1.
Evan, any thoughts on the Colts in general? Do you think they're the best team in that division?
Well, I think that Matt Ryan checks our boxes here, at least 2 boxes. He plays quarterback, and I think the Colts have a chance to be a good team. But I just wonder about the upside. And I agree with Ryan here that Matt Ryan should be more like 40-1 maybe.
Right.
But I think this one's going to be a pass for me personally. But I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, he's priced too long.
The age model certainly does not like Matt Ryan for sure. But
and I mean, the offense is going to be built around Jonathan Taylor. I think you almost need a situation where like Jonathan Taylor gets hurt and Naheem Hines takes over and they start like spinning it. You know, they start throwing the piss out of it.
Yep, that makes sense for sure. Let's go to offensive player of the year. Now, this is very different, Ryan. MVP is almost exclusively quarterbacks. Offensive player of the year, I guess they created this award so that non-quarterbacks could win something cool. What do you think generally about this market? What kind of players should we be looking for in offensive player of the year, Ryan?
I usually stay away from it because sometimes the MVP just wins the offensive player of the year as well. Sometimes they give it to someone like Cooper Kupp last year, where it's essentially like, oh, you're not a quarterback, but you're the best player otherwise. So here.
Yeah.
When you look at odds though, for instance, Devontae Adams is 12-1, Nick Chubb 16-1. So when I see someone like Justin Jefferson at 30-1, 40-1, where we're gonna have him as a top 2, top 3 wide receiver all off season.
Yeah.
That's at least worth putting a sprinkle on.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
I like it.
I mean, Justin Jefferson is one of the best players in the NFL, regardless of position, you know, in my opinion. And like Ryan said, guys that we know from fantasy, I think are worse, are priced, you know, ridiculously higher. 40-1 on Justin Jefferson for sure. Evan, a guy we talked about last time was Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones to win Offensive Player of the Year is 100 to 1. In other words, for you guys that don't bet too much, that means 100. That means 100 times your money is what it means. So
put down 100 and you're in position to win 10K.
Yeah. So I mean, we talked about Aaron Jones a lot last pod, but just to reiterate, Evan, go ahead on Aaron Jones at 100 to 1.
It just looks like he's going to be their wide receiver 1 and their RB1, and you know, the offense is going to flow through Aaron Jones this year. I mean,
I just started to cut you off. And the Packers are going to be very good. Like losing Devontae Adams, like they have an awesome defense that they can win 11, 12, 13 games, no problem.
The division is still, I mean, I wanted to mention a few super long shots for MVP though.
Okay, go ahead.
Zach Wilson, 150-1.
Oh, baby.
I don't know if I believe in Zach Wilson. You know, I don't know if the Jets are necessarily totally sold on him, but I do know that they have put him in position. Like we're gonna know what Zach Wilson is after this year, and they have set him up to succeed. Greg Cosell has talked about this, that it was Daniel Jeremiah actually, who's best friends with Joe Douglas, who runs the Jets. The idea behind collecting, like they have 3 tight ends. You know, they paid for the 2, they drafted another one. And they're really deep at receiver, even on down to like Braxton Berrios, who showed quite a bit last year. I think had a really nice season when he was given opportunities. But you know, the complexion of the offense kind of changes. You get Garrett Wilson in there, Corey Davis. His role kind of changed. He's not going to be relied on to be the alpha number 1 anymore. And we've seen him have success in that true number 2 role. And then Elijah Moore is a guy who could really take off this season. He coming out of college, he reminded me a lot of Doug Baldwin. That sort of player. I think we're going to see him in the slot quite a bit. Zach Wilson he does have dynamic talent. It's just he has a problem succeeding within the structure of the offense. Even if you go back and watch him in college, like he would make highlight reel plays. They would all be like second reaction, you know, off platform. And that's not really what you want in a Mike LaFleur offense. Mike LaFleur comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree. You think Kyle Shanahan, like his favorite quarterback of all time is Kirk Cousins because he plays within the structure of the offense. So I mean, there's definitely reason to doubt this. The Jets might not be very good also. Although if Zach Wilson is good, then the Jets are going to be good. And then he could potentially be in the crosshairs for MVP. I also looked at Trevor Lawrence 80-1 and Justin Fields at 80-1 as well.
Yeah. Zach Wilson one is tough for me in the AFC. I don't think that I'll be taking that, but I'll raise you one that people will hate equally as much as Zach Wilson. What about Daniel Jones 100-1 to win the MVP? Plays in the NFC, heads on the Josh Allen trajectory.
Adam just will not give it up with anything.
Okay. Anyways, anything else on offensive rookie of the year? We mentioned Justin Jefferson, I think is really good at 40-1. Aaron Jones 100-1. Any other offensive player of the years you guys want to mention?
No, Jefferson was the one that really stuck out to me, and Evan's idea of Jones is also. I'm doing best balls now in part so I can get Aaron Jones in the third round. So I'm very interested in that too.
Aaron Jones in the third round is egregious. And by the way, I don't disagree with Evan that Zach Wilson, it's like now or never. I think in some of these underdog drafts and also in some of these 2 quarterback systems, like Daniel Jones and Zach Wilson to me are 2 of my favorite targets for that like QB 2/3 range in those formats where best ball or where you can start 2. I know. I'm interrupting the video. Wah. But if you're enjoying this video and want to see more fantasy football and DFS content like it, please just take 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Really does go a long way for us, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and now back to the show. Let's go to one of my favorite markets, man, and I love this one. I don't know how Ryan feels. This is probably my favorite one. It's Coach of the Year because, like, it's just so funny. Like, you know, a guy can do a great job, but if he won 14 games last year and he wins 14 games again this year, well, he's probably not winning, right? So you're looking for like delta between, like, you need a team who's the public perceives his team as bad, but it's actually good. Is basically what you're looking for. As at least for me, Ryan, what do you look for in Coach of the Year market?
Agreed. I mean, we bet on Dan Campbell on the same day without talking to each other. So we saw that eye to eye. That's maybe they slide into the 7th seed or they compete with it. Get that guy at 60-1. So I'm also looking at situations like that. I bet on him. I bet on Doug Peterson at I think 30-1 for similar reasons. Because like Evan said, Trevor Lawrence is actually an interesting MVP long shot. And if he does well, but he doesn't, their Jaguars aren't good enough to be the top team in the AFC, Doug Peterson's in a pretty good position to compete for the award as well. But because you're right. When you look at the odds, like Brandon Staley, for instance, is the favorite pretty much at every sports book. They won 9 games last year. They're expected to be good. So he's probably not in a position to win the award unless they win 16 games or so. So one team I'm going to be monitoring is Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell. They start the season at home against Green Bay, and then they head to Philly in week 2. So I'm going to probably stay away until then, and then maybe think about jumping on if they start 1-1. He ends up like 30-1 after that because their schedule is pretty manageable from that point on.
Favorite in this market, as Ryan mentioned, is Brandon Staley, Nathaniel Hackett, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin Stefanski, Josh McDaniels, Sean McDermott. Those are the top picks there. And yeah, we talked a couple times on the podcast. The Dan Campbell stuff at 60-1 is long gone now. That's like the exact kind of thing that I'm looking for. Everybody in the national media assumes the Lions are just total dust. They only have to win like 10 games or 11 games for Dan Campbell to get consideration. You start to ask for a lot more when you're asking for like Nathaniel Hackett, who might have to win 12, 13 games or something like that. Evan, any thoughts on the Kevin O'Connell or anything else at Coach of the Year?
No, I like the Kevin O'Connell one. I like the way that they're building in Minnesota too. Kevin O'Connell has a past relationship with Kirk Cousins, so I think that should go smoothly from like a schematic standpoint. We could see Justin Jefferson take a really big leap. We saw some good stuff from KJ Osborne last year, and Adam Thielen might be fading, although it sounds like Leone and Amico think that he could have a bounce back year, which I think is interesting.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna bring up another Daniel Jones related piece. Forget about Daniel Jones. Isn't Brian Daboll like straight up one of the best coaches in the league? Just like straight up.
Yeah.
So regardless of who's on his team, like I think Brian Daboll really knows what he's doing. Will the Giants be good enough for Daboll to win it? I don't know, but I really think Brian Daboll knows what he's doing. And now that I look at Ryan and Daboll kind of look alike a little bit. Now that
Ryan is also a Giants fan, or like a self-hating Giants fan.
Yeah, right? self-loathing Giants fan. Yeah, maybe you should comment on that then, Ryan. I don't know. I doubt there's probably better than 20-1 out there on Daboll. But yeah, what do you think about that?
No, Daboll, I agree with you. Especially if maybe we'll get into this later, but if you look at the comeback player of the year race, Daniel Jones is 7-1 or so. Daboll's between 14-1 and 21 for Coach of the Year. I think if you're bullish on the Giants and Daboll, which again, as a Giants fan, I'm happy about the coach they've hired for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah,
he at least has a plan, So I think that's very reasonable. He'd be in my top 5 considerations right now. He's someone I'm monitoring currently.
One thing that I think Ryan does a good job of is understanding the schedule. So the Giants have, again, just like last year, have a very difficult opening stretch. So maybe there's a chance that, like, if you want to bet Giant stuff, you wait till they start 1-2 or 1-3, and you can get some really long prices then. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I love it. I do. That's why we do to my column in season, looking for stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Ryan's column in season highlights the schedule stuff. And to be clear, the Giants start at Tennessee versus Carolina versus the Cowboys versus, actually, it's pretty soft. At Tennessee versus the Panthers versus the Cowboys versus the Bears, at Packers versus Ravens.
Yeah, sounds like now's the time to bet Daboll.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, I don't know why I thought they had a tough early start. They have a pretty soft.
I know the Jets have been like the number one most bet Super Bowl team, obviously relative to the odds in Vegas, or I think David Wayne Purdom had that.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Saleh at 28 plus 28 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Matt LaFleur almost won Coach of the Year last year. He's at 22 to 1 behind some guys that it's kind of strange that he's behind.
Mm-hmm.
And then John Harbaugh at 25 to 1 too.
Yeah. One thing on LaFleur is like, oh, they lost Devontae Adams. Look at what a great job LaFleur did keeping this pass game together. When in fact, we know it's Aaron Rodgers anyway.
You can sort of try to like forecast a narrative and then kind of, build bets around it.
And to be clear, this is not scientific. Like, the voting is done by media members. And like, we know a lot of media members, they're not that sharp, a lot of them. And like, they're just like blasting on narratives, So like whatever narrative, we have to get into the head of the voters. It's not who's actually the MVP, who's actually the best coach. It's who the people will vote for. And that's a big difference.
Agreed, completely. Let me throw something in the mix too on Coach of the Year. In each of the last 2 years, the race was essentially decided in the last week of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Where last year, if the Bengals play their starters in week 17, that race might have been closer between Zach Taylor and Mike Vrabel. The year before, if Mike Tomlin plays his starters against I think it was Cleveland, where Stefanski won, and the Steelers win that game, he might have been Coach of the Year. Yeah. So that's something I'll be keeping my eye on this year too.
Yeah, I had big bets last year. I was mostly in on Brandon Staley to be Coach of the Year last year. It was frustrating the way that went down the stretch, but I do think I got it in good there, even though he didn't win it. Okay. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I actually tweeted about this a couple days ago. Matt Corral has a path to start a lot of games. I mean, Sam Darnold is broken. I don't think that they want to take on Baker's contract, and Cleveland's refusing to, or at least for now, refusing to take on part of that contract or a big part of that contract. We'll see what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo. But assuming there's no Garoppolo and there's no Baker, I mean, Corral could start like 12, 13 games. I mean, Darnold feels broken to me. And if you can get a rookie quarterback starting 12
Darnold
or 13,
could be out of there like at the half of game one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Matt Rule cannot afford to like go down with the ship on Darnold. He's going to end up getting canned. And so you can still get 30 to 1, I believe, Ryan, out there on Matt Corral. Now, I don't think that quarterback is necessarily like the position for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Running backs obviously have like the easiest path to adjust. So I'm not like quarterback biased in this market, but I do think if Corral starts 12 games and can win like 7 or 8 of them, which is probably asking a lot, but I do think 30 to 1 is interesting on him. What do you think about him and any other Offensive Rookie of the Year stuff?
Yeah, unlike last year there was a lot of premium candidates. There was 5 first-round quarterbacks. There was 3 pass catchers taken in the first 6 picks. So there was a lot of competition last year. Where this year, only 1 first-round quarterback. I've bet on Breece Hall already. I got him at 11 to 1. He's 8 to 1 now.
Mm-hmm.
I might double down on that in season because the Jets start with a kind of a difficult run at the beginning of the year. But one of the things that intrigues me about Corral is, like you said, Matt Rule, they're going to pull the plug on Darnold quickly because he kind of has to save his job, Corral's skill set kind of meshes with what Ben McAdoo wants out of a quarterback from a talent perspective too. So I think he also, you don't even have to have a good record if you're a quarterback. To Sam Bradford years and years ago, I think he won 3 or 4 games and he won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the competition level is soft in this race. Him being at 30 to 1 and having a real path. I'd even say Matt Flynn and Russell Wilson. I wouldn't compare Matt Corral to Russell Wilson, but Sam Darnold is kind of an equivalent to Matt Flynn, where he's a very beatable guy. Where if Corral has a great August, maybe he even starts on opening day.
Yeah, certainly possible. The favorite in this market, Evan, is Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Then Drake London, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson. I do not like really any of those at those prices. Breece Hall, as Ryan mentioned, 9 to 1 is pretty good on Breece Hall, especially if you think the Jets are going to be a pretty good team. Other one that stuck out to me, Evan, was Sky Moore, but he's only 10-1.
Yeah.
But if he can somehow become the number one receiver for Patrick Mahomes, which I don't think is like the craziest thing in the world, I'd like to get better than 10-1 on that, though. Any other offensive rookie of the year thoughts, Evan?
I'm just looking here at Dameon Pierce, who I was talking about taking him at 55-1. It was, or 50-1 on DraftKings when I took it. I know it was 66-1 on Bambi, but Dameon Pierce is now 20-1 on DraftKings.
Yeah, we tweeted about that when we took it, and so that one got hammered.
If I was going to go for a longer shot, Tyler Allgeier from the Falcons, the big back that the Falcons drafted, he can catch. And, right now, Cordero Patterson is at the top of the depth chart. And I know Damian Williams is there, but like Damian Williams, like he could get cut, and then Tyler Allgeier, right after they drafted him, they chopped Mike Davis. So I think they feel good about him. I think that he could be like the Arthur Smith's like low rent Derrick Henry, or kind of envisions him as being like a power back and a tone setter for the offense.
One guy that I want to mention in this race, Ryan, I don't know if you looked at David Bell at all. I just think if Deshaun Watson avoids suspension and David Bell starts, which I think is actually kind of likely, that's pretty nice, man. And you can get 35-1 on DraftKings. There might be better prices out there. Any thoughts on that and any other offensive rookie of the year thoughts, Ryan?
No, in general, I think this is a very good year for long shots. I think Pierce is sharp. I think the Falcons run are sharp too. And David Bell, that's a great landing spot for him because he has a very clear path to playing time, where the first round rookies, if Jameson Williams was healthy, I'd be real excited about him. But otherwise, none of those guys' landing spots really, I'm not crazy about any of their prices either. So I do like Bell at 35-1.
Yeah, they're just the guys who went in the first round. I think are fine, and the landing spots are fine, but the prices are so short. You're asking a lot of these guys to get there at 7-1 or 8-1. That's really not good enough. Evan, any other offensive rookie of the year thoughts before we move on here?
No, I like that you brought up David Bell though. Some smart people that I talk to about this kind of stuff, they brought up David Bell as well. The path to playing time is clear, as Ryan said, and the quarterback play could really, really take off this year if Deshaun Watson is, cleared to play earlier or sooner rather than later.
Two other guys I got to mention here. I know people love the 100-1 shots. 100-1 on Brian Robinson. The football team or Commanders or whatever they're called, like clearly don't like Antonio Gibson very much. And I'm not in love with Brian Robinson. I don't think he's that good or whatever. But man, if Antonio Gibson gets hurt or Antonio Gibson gets demoted, Brian Robinson could get a lot of carries at 100-1. And then the other one is Wandale. And we talked about, I don't like guys who weigh 175 pounds in the NFL. He's going to play like the Cole Beasley role where they drafted him. He's going to play the Cole Beasley role for Brian Daboll. And, I could see Wandale catching a bunch of passes in like a ceiling outcome and at least having a shot. He's 70-1 on DraftKings. Let's go to comeback player of the year. I actually hit this one last year, Ryan. I think we all did with Joe Burrow, our king, Joe Burrow. He won comeback player of the year last year. It's hard to know what like the voters define as comeback. Like, do you have to be hurt? The previous year, do you just have to be bad? The previous year, like, what does it take to be the comeback player of the year, do you think, Ryan?
It can be either. It's usually coming back from an injury. Sometimes like Michael Vick, for instance, won after returning from prison. So that's like an outlier one. But usually it's coming back from an injury. I think there's a lot of like last year we had Dak and we had Joe Burrow that were like head and shoulders above everyone else in the class. A running back hasn't won comeback player of the year since Garrison Hurst. So Derrick Henry's in a good position, but again, running backs haven't won the award in a very long time. Yeah. So out of the
Derrick Henry's the favorite, by the way.
Yeah. I don't think voters are going to vote for Deshaun Watson for this award. Personally, I think that's basically off the table. So Jameis Winston's kind of interesting. His price I'm not real happy about his price at 7-1, but he has both. He has the injury from last year, and he's kind of reclaiming himself as an NFL starter, where he got a shot last year, but it didn't last very long. So I think he double dips on that. The Saints are a solid team where Marcus Mariota could end up ceding snaps to Desmond Ridder. Trubisky could end up ceding snaps to Pickett. And Daniel Jones is the other one. So I think Winston and Daniel Jones are the two guys that are set to play for the whole year unless they get hurt at least.
It was so ridiculous last year. I tweeted about Joe Burrow and betting on him to be comeback player of the year. And there were all these people in my mentions arguing about whose injury was more gruesome. Dax or Joe Burrow. Like that's what they were basing like their opinion on. Like, but Dak's injury was so much grosser, man. You know, it was like they're both coming off season-long injuries, period. So, yeah, I just want to put that out there. Christian McCaffrey, by the way, I know you said running back rarely wins this award, but Christian McCaffrey is kind of an outlier where people are aware of how good he is. He's plus 750 on DraftKings. Totally agree with you on Deshaun Watson just being like, I can't believe he's 5-1. He's the second choice. And by the way, the top choices are on DraftKings, Derrick Henry 3-1, Deshaun Watson 5-1, Jameis plus 550, Michael Thomas 6-1, then CMC 7.5-1. There's no way that the media is voting for Deshaun Watson. Absolutely. What did he come back from being on the sideline because he's in trouble with the law? I mean, you can't vote for that guy. I can't believe he's 5-1. So yeah, I would definitely throw that out. Derrick Henry 3-1 would be too short for me. I'm not seeing a lot of great prices here is the problem. Evan, any thoughts on comeback player of the year?
No, but I have a good one for defensive rookie of the year.
Okay.
Are we gonna do that one?
We weren't planning on it, but we're more than welcome to.
Okay.
Actually, before we go to defense rating, let me give one for comeback player of the year while we're here.
Do it.
Then we can move on.
Okay.
I don't know how bad Robert Woods' injury is. I just think he could be the number one receiver on a good team, which may be forced to throw more this year. So I'll throw Robert Woods at 12-1 out there. I wish it was like 20-1 or 25-1. I'm not even sure I would bet it at 12-1, but that was just one that stuck out to me where people are just kind of glossing over Robert Woods because they think he's hurt and Traylon Burks is whatever. Robert Woods is very, very, very good player. Also, J.K. Dobbins, 10-1. Ravens are going to run the crap out of the ball this year, man. And J.K. Dobbins is going to be very, very efficient. So anyways, that's my last two takes there on comeback player of the year.
How is Dan Arnold posted?
There's some weird names on there, man.
There are some weird names, man.
Darrell Henderson's on there.
Yeah, the people making these, they should hire us to make these markets. If you guys, if you're at DraftKings and you need someone else to make these markets for the right price, we can do it.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
he's not even on a team.
Okay, defensive rookie of the year. I didn't even really look at this because I obviously don't know the defensive players nearly as well as Evan does. But Evan, go ahead on defensive rookie of the year. The favorite,
have a super long shot.
Okay, the favorite is Aiden Hutchinson at 4.5-1. Then Kayvon Thibodeau 5-1. Trayvon Walker, Quay Walker. Basically, all the edge guys are the favorites right now.
There's like Steph from half court, Although actually no, he's got a much better chance. Sam Williams, Cowboys second round pick. They love this dude. I mean, Brian Broaddus, as we talked about on one of the previous shows, like he knew that the Cowboys were going to take Sam Williams like in second round. Sam Williams, if you go to Bob McGinn's like scout based rankings of edge players entering the draft, he wasn't even in the top 15. The Cowboys still took him in the second round. They love this guy. They lost Randy Gregory in free agency. All Sam Williams has to beat out is Dorrance Armstrong to start opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence. There's a ton of talent on that defense that is going to require a ton of attention from offenses. I think Sam Williams could, rack up 9 sacks and be defensive rookie of the year, like no problem.
100-1, another 100-1 ball. Yeah. Micah Parsons was, of course, the defensive rookie of the year last year, just absolutely dominant. I thought Micah Parsons was good enough to be the defensive player of the year. Forget about rookie, just like defensive player of the year. Ryan, do you look at this defensive rookie of the year market at all? And any thoughts there?
Yeah, usually if there's a high-end pass rusher, they usually win, like Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. So Hutchinson or Thibodeau are probably, and, we can throw Walker in there too, even though I don't think most people think he should have been the first overall pick, but he was. So there's three of those guys to beat. That would be my main concern with betting on this market this season, which is why I'm probably going to pass on it in general.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if those guys, if one of those big guys racks up 10 sacks, like they're going to win it, because name value. I mean, nobody knows who Sam Williams is. Everybody obviously knows Hutchinson and Thibodeau and Walker. All right. This was fun. I'm going to go bet some of this stuff. Actually, no, I'm going to let this pod get released before I bet it because I don't want to mess up the market for everyone. So, you guys go out there and bet it. Appreciate you all for being here. Ryan, continue to follow his work on the awards market. I really do think it's one of the softest markets, one we can beat. And by the way, as soon as we get down with this pod, very exciting time. I think we're going to start betting some season-long props. If you have DraftKit Pro, you need to be in the Discord. We'll be betting some season-long props last year was just ridiculous fun with those. We'll see how it goes this year. But yeah, definitely another extremely soft market. 4, Evan. 4, Ryan. For producer Luke, I'm Adam. Good luck, everybody.